Part 1. Alone on the Throne. She was not supposed to rule. She was young. She was a woman. And many people wanted her gone. Elizabeth Tudor became queen at a time when England was divided, weak, and afraid. Some believed she would fail quickly. Others believed she should never rule at all. But she stayed, and she ruled alone. Elizabeth I was born into danger. Her mother, Anne Boleyn, was executed when Elizabeth was only 2 years old. After that, Elizabeth was declared illegitimate. She was no longer a princess. She learned early one lesson: power can disappear overnight. As a child, Elizabeth learned to stay silent, to watch, to wait. She studied languages, history, and philosophy. She did not know if she would live, let alone rule. She learned how to survive. When Elizabeth became queen in 1558, England was surrounded by enemies. The country was poor. Religion divided the people. Foreign powers waited for weakness, and Elizabeth stood alone. She had no husband, no protector, no powerful family behind her. Many advisors told her one thing: you must marry. You need a king beside you. Elizabeth listened, and then she refused. Elizabeth understood something others did not. Marriage was not safety. Marriage was control. If she married a foreign prince, England would lose independence. If she married a local noble, it would divide the court. So she chose something rare. She chose to rule by herself. "I will have but one mistress here," she once said, "and no master." Her decision shocked Europe. A woman ruling alone was seen as dangerous, weak, unnatural. But Elizabeth used that image. She spoke carefully. She moved slowly. She allowed people to underestimate her. While others argued, she waited. While others rushed, she planned. Elizabeth did not rule by force. She ruled by balance. She avoided unnecessary wars. She chose advisors carefully. She listened more than she spoke. And when danger came, she did not panic. She believed something deeply. A ruler must be seen as steady, even when the world is not. There were plots against her, assassination attempts, rebellions, foreign threats. Elizabeth survived them all, not because she was cruel, but because she was patient. One of her most famous words was simple: "I know I have the body of a weak woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king." Elizabeth ruled England for 44 years. She never married. She never shared power. She remained alone on the throne, and that choice shaped history. Part 2. Alone on the Throne. Elizabeth I learned quickly that being queen meant living under constant threat, not from one enemy but from many directions at once, inside her own country and far beyond it. The most dangerous threat had a name: Mary, Queen of Scots. Mary had royal blood. She was young, beautiful, and Catholic. Many believe she had a stronger claim to the English throne than Elizabeth. For some, Mary was the true queen. Elizabeth knew this. She understood one thing very clearly: power is fragile when people doubt it. Mary became a symbol, a focus for rebellion. Plots formed quietly. Letters were written in secret. Promises were made in shadows. Elizabeth did not rush. She watched. She waited. She collected information. She believed that acting too early creates enemies. Acting too late destroys trust. Mary was imprisoned, not executed, not freed, just held in place for years. This decision showed Elizabeth's nature. She avoided extremes. She tried to keep balance even when the pressure was heavy. But danger did not disappear. Catholic powers in Europe watched closely. Spain, France, the Pope himself. They waited for Elizabeth to fail. England was small compared to them. Elizabeth knew war would be disastrous. So she spoke carefully. She sent messages. She delayed decisions. She bought time. Time became her strongest weapon. Still, plots continued. One message, one mistake, one betrayal could end everything. Elizabeth understood the cost of mercy. When proof finally appeared that Mary supported a plot against her life, Elizabeth faced the hardest choice of her reign: execute a queen, or risk her own death. She hesitated, she delayed, and then she signed. Mary was executed. Elizabeth did not celebrate. She did not smile. She knew what this meant. Once blood is spilled at the top, the world changes. But after that moment, the threats grew quieter. Elizabeth had shown something important. She would protect her crown. And she would protect England, even if it meant standing completely alone. Part 3. Alone on the Throne. By the late 1580s, Elizabeth knew the waiting was over. Spain was coming. King Philip II ruled the most powerful empire in Europe. His navy controlled the seas. His armies were experienced and confident, and he believed England needed to be punished. Elizabeth was a Protestant queen in a Catholic world. To Philip, she was not just an enemy, she was a threat. Spain prepared the Armada, a fleet so large people believed it could not fail. England was smaller, poorer, less prepared. Many expected disaster. Elizabeth understood the fear. She felt it too. But she also understood something else. Fear spreads faster than truth. She did not hide. Instead, she went to her soldiers. She stood before them not in armor but in presence, calm, controlled, visible, and she spoke words that would outlive the battle. "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman," she said, "but I have the heart and stomach of a king." Those words mattered, not because they were dramatic, but because they were steady. Elizabeth did not promise victory. She promised resolve. The Spanish Armada sailed toward England with confidence, but confidence can blind. English ships were smaller, faster, and more flexible. They avoided close combat. They attacked at a distance. They waited for mistakes. And mistakes came. Weather turned against Spain. Winds scattered ships. Coordination failed. What looked unstoppable began to break apart. England did not destroy the Armada completely. But it did something more important. It survived. Spain retreated. The threat passed, and Europe watched in silence. A small island had stood against an empire. Elizabeth had not won through force alone. She had won through patience, preparation, and belief. After the Armada, her position changed forever. She was no longer questioned in the same way, no longer seen as temporary, no longer underestimated. But the cost remained. She was still alone. No husband, no heir. No one to share the weight. Elizabeth had protected her country, but she had sacrificed a private life to do it. Part 4. Alone on the Throne. After the victory over Spain, England felt safer. The danger from outside had passed. The country was stronger. The Queen was respected. But Elizabeth did not feel relief. Power does not remove loneliness. It often deepens it. As Elizabeth grew older, the court changed. Advisors died. Trusted voices disappeared. New faces arrived, eager for favor, impatient for power. Elizabeth watched carefully. She had learned long ago that loyalty fades when time runs out. People began to ask the same question again and again. Who comes next? Elizabeth had no children, no clear successor. The future of the crown became uncertain, and uncertainty creates tension. She avoided the topic, not because she did not understand it, but because speaking too early can destroy balance. Elizabeth ruled with memory. She remembered her mother's fate. She remembered prison. She remembered how quickly protection can turn into danger. So she kept control. She delayed decisions. She spoke in careful words. She allowed mystery to protect her authority. But age brings limits. Her health weakened. Her energy faded. She spent more time alone. The crown, once a symbol of strength, became a weight. Elizabeth once said, "I see all the birds are flown." She meant her friends, her youth, her certainty. Yet she did not complain. She believed that a ruler's duty does not end with comfort. It ends with responsibility. Elizabeth continued to rule until the end of her life, calm on the outside, heavy on the inside. She had protected England. She had shaped an era, but she had paid a price. She had ruled successfully, and she had ruled alone. Part 5. Alone on the Throne. In her final years, Elizabeth moved more slowly. The court was quieter. The rooms felt larger. Time felt heavier. She spent long hours in silence, thinking, remembering, watching the faces around her change. The world she had built was stable. England was stronger than when she began. Its enemies were cautious. Its voice mattered. But inside, Elizabeth felt the cost. She had chosen duty over comfort, control over closeness, the crown over a private life. When she spoke, her words were measured. When she listened, she heard not just voices but intentions. She had learned this skill early, and it never left her. Elizabeth refused to lie about her strength. She knew her body was weak now. She knew the end was near. Still, she remained queen until the last moment. When the time came, she did not make a speech. She did not perform for history. She simply let go. Elizabeth I died in 1603, after ruling for 44 years. No husband, no children, no equal beside her. But she left something rare: stability, identity, confidence. An era would later be named after her, not because she conquered lands, not because she ruled loudly, but because she held a fragile kingdom together when everything pushed against it. Elizabeth proved something quiet and powerful. You can lead without noise. You can rule without force. And you can stand alone and still shape history. Her throne is empty now, but her presence remains. Part 6. Alone on the Throne. Elizabeth did not leave a perfect world behind. She left a stable one. When she came to the throne, England was divided and afraid. When she left, it knew who it was. That difference mattered more than victories or titles. Elizabeth ruled for 44 years without sharing power, not because she did not want closeness, but because she understood the cost of dependence. She chose responsibility over comfort. She once said, "I would rather be a beggar and single than a queen and married." For her, freedom of judgment was everything. Elizabeth showed that leadership does not always look strong. Sometimes it looks careful. Sometimes it looks patient. Sometimes it looks lonely. She did not rule by fear. She did not rule by force. She ruled by control of herself. That is why her reign is remembered. not as loud, not as dramatic, but as enduring. When we look back at her life, we see something timeless. Power tests people, and not everyone survives that test with integrity. Elizabeth did. If you are interested in stories about inner strength, quiet power, and the price of leadership, you can continue with other stories on this channel. You can listen to how a Roman emperor learned to stay calm under pressure, how an ancient empire slowly collapsed while still believing it was eternal, and how philosophers shaped the way we think long after their lives ended. These stories are not just about the past. They are about choices, responsibility, and what remains when noise fades. Thank you for staying with this story until the end.
Thanks! Please subscribe and like. Spin a new yarn with us every week. See you there!